Welcome back, guys. So Nintendo is in the news once again, not really surprisingly anyway, but they have filed a lawsuit against a US-based ROM distribution website. So these websites, couple websites actually, they're based out of Arizona in the US of A, supposedly owned by Matthias Designs Limited Liability Company, or at least that's what sources are claiming. I think it's kind of crazy, what people are saying, and what these sources are also saying is that the damages Nintendo could be seeking could, equal up to $100 million with what they're asking for. And that is definitely nuts. I'm pretty darn sure that this company does not have $100 million to pay Nintendo if and when they lose this lawsuit, which, I mean, come on, obviously they're not going to have anything to stand on with this lawsuit. So definitely see them losing this one. Supposedly these two websites are fairly popular, some of the biggest ones out there. Before I heard about this lawsuit, I've never heard of these websites, never been to them. But I really wasn't surprised with this. About a year ago, Nintendo sent out a cease and desist to what I thought was one of the bigger ROM websites, telling them, hey, you guys need to stop, remove all of our games, this, and that. And they obliged. They took everything down. Nintendo's not shy with these cease and desists and going after people who are, using their intellectual property for their own personal gain. And that's fine. I don't really fault Nintendo for wanting to protect their intellectual properties. But this is not really what I wanted to talk about so much. Not the specifics with these lawsuits anyway. Nintendo's seeking these damages, looking to take ownership of these websites. Obviously, it's all about the ROMs, and also that these websites are using, their designs and whatnot, and supposedly are making money from doing what they are doing. But I think, the real issue here is that, people love Nintendo. Maybe not everybody loves Nintendo of the past 10 years, past 20 years, but definitely a lot of people have dug what Nintendo did back in the 80s and 90s. And there's a lot of people who want to revisit that, that nostalgia, and play these games. And really, I mean, like I said, I'm not saying it's wrong for Nintendo to want to protect their properties. That's not what I'm saying at all. They have every right to. It's their properties. But the problem I see is that Nintendo's pretty greedy with, sharing the nostalgia, giving access to these old school games. There's plenty of companies who've double, triple, quadruple dipped into, giving us access to their games. And that's cool. There's options out there. Nintendo, yeah, they had a virtual console. No longer do they have that, not for the Switch anyway. And with the Switch, there's going to be so many games that you have access to. And I think that's pretty cool. But really, to have some kind of ownership of being able to play these games, not having to worry about membership fees, or, maybe the games rotating out, the access rotating out. Where has Nintendo done, the customers, the consumers, the fans right by giving us access to these games? They did okay with the Wii, the Wii U, and the 3DS with some downloads, but those downloads really, to me, they seem overpriced for what you're getting, especially when people know they can play these games, either emulating them or even just buying, clone consoles, old school consoles, and buying the cartridges. A lot of these games you could find cartridges for fairly cheap. So people have these options. And really, some of these companies out there, Sega, for example, how many times have they put out a compilation of their games and given us access to 40, 50, 80 games, whatever the case may be, for, a budget price? And they're great games that people have a lot of nostalgia for and love. Where has Nintendo done that? They really haven't. The only examples I could even think of were for the Wii, with the Kirby 20th Anniversary Collection and the Super Mario Brothers All-Stars Collection. A Super Nintendo game just pumped on the one, not with a lot of extras or anything. They didn't even put Super Mario World on here. They could have put Super Mario World on this damn thing. But no, they didn't. But really, these are the only main examples I could think of and find where Nintendo gave the customers, the consumers, an opportunity to own some retro games and replay some stuff they really loved. Why isn't Nintendo continuing to do stuff like this? That's really what the problem is in my eyes. Why hasn't Nintendo done more compilations, more bundles of their old school games? Not just Nintendo, but other companies as well. Yeah, Nintendo gave us these little mini, classic systems, the NES and Super NES, and definitely they are sweet. They have a great selection of games on them. But, there's still tons more that people want access to, and not everybody wants a clone console. A lot of people want to be able to play these games on the go or play them on their big screen with their main console. Nintendo's ventured out into the mobile game market with a lot of things. Why isn't Nintendo doing the Sega Ages thing and stuff like that, putting some old school games on mobile platforms, on the PC? I understand Nintendo's stuck in their ways, and they're kind of shying out from that a little bit with the mobile stuff, but there's just so much missed opportunity to give the consumer what they want, and that's access to these retro games. There's so much good stuff that Nintendo put out for every system that they've made, and we have no idea if we'll ever be able to legitimately play those games. Stuff from the NES, Super Nintendo, Nintendo 64, GameCube, Wii U, obviously they're porting everything over to the Switch, and I think that's cool. But before the Wii, GameCube and below, there's just so much stuff that we have no idea if we'll ever have access to, that if we'll ever be able to play those legitimately, to be able to support Nintendo. Nintendo knows we want these games. Nintendo's known we've wanted a lot of things for a long time, but I don't really understand their business decisions half the time. They want to make money, I get it, but to me it just seems like it's such an easy thing to have a virtual console, which they're not doing, to have compilations. How much effort really goes into repackaging up a bundle of old games and putting it out there for a fair price? Not a $60 game. A $20 to $30 game with a bunch of awesome games on there would be cool. They could have really, and some people might not agree with this, they could have double dipped into the NES Super Nintendo Classic editions by putting out cartridges for the Switch, or even for the 3DS, Super Nintendo Classic Switch Edition, NES Classic Switch Edition. Give you those 30 games, those 22 games on a cartridge. Why couldn't they do that? Because, I think people would still buy the mini consoles, but it would be awesome to buy those on cartridge as well. And then expand upon that, give more access to other things, Game Boy games, Game Boy Advance games. There's just so much missed opportunity with these retro games that a lot of people are, they're going to emulating. They're going to buying old school consoles, clone consoles, and either buying, clone reproduction cartridges or even old school cartridges, legitimate carts. If I go buy a Super Mario World on the Super Nintendo off of OfferUp, Let Go, Craigslist, eBay, Nintendo benefits nothing from that. Nothing at all. Don't they understand? There's money to be made here, and no matter how many of these websites they go after to shut them down, there's going to be so much more access out there for people to find them anyway. I mean, I'm not directing anybody to where to find any of these games, but if you're crafty enough, you don't even have to be that crafty. You could find Nintendo's complete library out there, and boom, you have it playing on your PC. You have 16 and 8-bit games from Nintendo playing on your Raspberry Pi, on your cell phone, on your tablet. It doesn't matter. They'll always be out there. No matter how many of these websites they go after and shut down, the access will be there. Somebody will have that out there for someone, for people to find, and people will be playing these games. Now, just because, like I say, I wish Nintendo would put these games out for sale, doesn't mean everybody would buy them, but there's definitely a ton of people who want to support Nintendo and give them money for these old school games, that they owned when they were kids, teenagers, young adults, whatever it was, and however old they are now, they might have some discretionary income, and it's like, dude, I would really love to have the full library of Super Mario Brothers games, or the full first-party Nintendo library from the NES or Super NES on my Switch or on my PC, whatever it is, in a legitimate fashion, to where Nintendo is putting that out and benefiting from it, and people are paying for it and feel like, hey, cool, you know, I got a legitimate product from Nintendo. But they're missing the boat on that money-making opportunity, and they've done it plenty of times, you know, and it's just a crazy world with those things. I wish Nintendo would, you know, see people want access to this, even if it was just some kind of subscription fee where you had access to more than 10 to 20 games, you know, that who knows how long you have access to that for. There's numerous ways they could do it. I would prefer to have, like, hey, either, I'm not a big fan of digital downloads, but if they did it that way, I'm fine with that. But hey, I pay a fee, I get this collection. I don't like paying for Super Mario World $8 over and over and over again. You know, they've not had where things transfer from system to system to system. They've been very bad with backwards compatibility over the past few years anyway, especially with the digital aspect of things. Sure, you know, playing GameCube on the Wii, playing Wii on the Wii U, that's fine, that was great, but your digital stuff went nowhere. You know what I mean? At least mostly it didn't. From that time period to now anyway, to the Switch, you don't have access to that stuff unless you kept your Wii and your Wii U. And then the Wii's, you know, online shop has closed, so you can't really jump on there and do much. And it's only a matter of time that the Wii U will be shut down as well. We just want our access, and people are going to find it one way or another, be it by downloading ROMs or by supporting Nintendo or doing a combination of both. Nintendo needs to jump on the ball, get people what they want. I know they understand that people want these things, like Mother 3 for damn, you know, when are we getting Mother 3? Who knows, right? They take forever with these things. Sure, it might happen, but it might be beyond my time when Nintendo finally gives access to the customer, to the consumer, their legacy titles in a reasonable way anyway. So those are my thoughts. That's my rant. It just was something on my mind and I wanted to talk about it. So really do appreciate you guys stopping in. Smash that like button, subscribe, do all that cool stuff. Follow me on Twitter. If you want to show support to the channel, hey, $1 a month, $5 a month, doesn't really matter. If you go on my Patreon account, my website there, boom, you can show support. You're entered into some awesome giveaways every month, some exclusive content, really cool stuff. If not, hey, at least smash that like button and comment, you know. That's appreciated just as much. So thank you guys. And with that said, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out. Bye-bye. Boom.